Welcome to Bridging Gaps, the business podcast sharing the challenges and stories of fellow business owners.
Hello and welcome. I'm Deborah Levitt, your host. In this week's episode, I'm joined by three different wonderful and interesting guests. The first is Nell Op de Beeck, and Nell and I are talking mainly about the 5 ways which she's going to be covering in greater detail with Richard Woods and Jake Liddell at the Hampshire Business Expo on the 26th of February. That's in just 2 days' time. And I just wanted to catch up with Nell to understand a little bit more about it and how she applies it herself. The next guest is Mandy Dineley. Now, Mandy is the founder of My Beautiful Pen, and the reason I wanted to include Mandy in today's is because a lot of the businesses that will be at the Hampshire Business Expo are actually micro businesses, and Mandy is one of the people that I interviewed for Microbiz Matters Day. And while Microbiz Matters Day is a day at the beginning of January, or the beginning of the year, it is something which matters throughout the year. So I've included my conversation with Mandy as we talk about her business and the importance of personal relations within a business. And Mandy also shares what at that point she was going to do, but what she did to support other businesses in Microbiz Matters. Then finally, we have Jake Liddell of WP Aid. Now, Jake is going to be speaking about automation and processes at the keynote speech at the Hampshire Business Expo with Richard and Nell. And I wanted to ask Jake a little bit more about this because I know that when you start talking about automation and process, for some people, it doesn't necessarily resonate. And understanding why it's so important and understanding what Jake is going to be bringing to the table felt like a really valuable conversation to me. So Jake and I have a great conversation around what a difference automation and process can have to a business of any size whatsoever. So please join me now in welcoming my first guest, Nell Op de Beeck, an action coach. Hello, Nell. How are you?
Hey, Deborah. I'm great. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you very much. And really glad that you could join me today for a chat about the Business Expo that's coming up.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are very welcome. I know that you've joined up with Richard Woods and Jake Liddell to do a micro lead gen summit as the keynote speech at the Hampshire Business Expo. And if I'm not mistaken, you're going to be talking about the 5 ways. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
So do you want to tell me, just without giving away the entire talk, obviously, just a little
Obviously.
Why somebody would want to come and hear more about it?
Yeah, of course. So our 5 ways is a very simple formula that explains particular areas to business owners in how they can quite easily grow their business. So what we often find is that if you make a few small incremental changes in 5 key areas, hence why it's called the 5 ways, then we often get great growth in businesses. And what I'm finding with a lot of the business owners that I'm working with is that we get so busy sitting on the hamster wheel that we often forget to look at the right kind of numbers. And when you talk to business owners about business growth, they think that major changes need to be made for them to be able to achieve that. And what we'll be talking about through this formula, and obviously with the expertise that Jake and Richard have got, is more about actually a few small changes can make a really big impact.
Oh, that sounds really exciting, because I know that when I spoke to you guys the other day that you were saying about just 10% increments as well, which just feels so much more achievable than trying to manage change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now, is this something that you talk about on a regular basis? So are you sort of giving talks around this to lots of different groups, or is this a one-off that you're doing with Jake and Richard?
Well, it's kind of core of my coaching business. So it's part of everything I do with my clients, because obviously, although I do meet people sometimes that say, I'm not necessarily looking to grow, or I'm not looking for more money. I don't want to be a millionaire, or whatever it may be. As far as I'm concerned, it's always about money, because we always need money. And the Japanese call it kaizen. So it kind of means ever growing. It's a bit like a tree. You're either growing or you're dying. So you always have to look at some form of growth. And in this current world, we have to focus on money. So we will always look at growth. And this is one of my key tools that I use with my clients all the time. I use it in some of my talks, but it's mainly used in all my coaching sessions.
So it's really a tool that you are actively using with clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you apply it to yourself as well?
Yeah, we are always trying to be congruent. Yeah, absolutely. I do my best to look at it in equally the same way. And it's the same thing. I often say this to people when I go through this with my coach, and they go, "Oh, you have a coach yourself?" Well, yeah. Why would I say to people a coach is a great thing for you if you don't have a coach yourself?
Yeah, so definitely practicing what you preach, which is great.
Correct. Correct.
I would have been very surprised if you said, no, it doesn't apply to me, but I thought I would check.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, actually. It is very fair. But yeah, no, practice what you preach for sure. And it's not about not knowing what to do, because, of course, it is our key things that we teach people. So theoretically, and it's the same with business owners that I work with. It's not that they don't know what to do. It's actually making sure that you do them, because it's easy to let ourselves off the hook and not do what we need to focus on.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so easy to put things above it that you think are either more enjoyable or feel more important on the day. And to just push those things that feel a bit difficult to the side.
Correct.
Not, of course, that I would ever do that.
No, of course not.
I'm not speaking from personal experience, of course.
Of course. No. Totally believe you there.
Ooh, phew.
Yeah.
So, Nell, are you actually exhibiting at the Hampshire Business Expo as well, or are you there for the talk?
I am there for the talk, and I'm there to be part of as the Lead Gen Academy, or the Lead Gen Summit. But yes, I'm not. I don't have a separate stand for myself.
Right. And do you find, what I'm looking for, so it might be easier just to ask the question, is as somebody going to a show as a visitor, do you have any tips for how to make the most out of attending the expo? As a visitor or as an exhibitor? Actually, either, because both I think benefit from tips.
I would say as a visitor, for me, it'd be a bit twofold. I would think go with an open mind, because you never know who you're going to meet. Definitely, it's great to catch up with people that you may already know, but definitely have conversations with people that you don't already know. If there's anyone specific that you're looking for, make sure that you kind of do the rounds and find all the people that fit that particular bill. But go with an open mind and take a notebook and some water. That's always important.
Ah, very good idea on the water. Yes.
Keep the brain and the body hydrated, because in these places, and especially when it's busy, it gets you get a bit starved of oxygen sometimes. So some water is always good. I would also say probably check out the speakers. All these events often have really great topics and great speakers. So check out the speakers and what times they are on, and potentially set an alarm on your phone, because I've done it before, when you go to these events and go, actually, you've made the effort of checking out who's talking, but then you get so carried away with talking that stands or to people that you kind of forget what time it is. So set an alarm on your phone so you can go to the talk that you wanted to go to. That would be, I guess, my keynotes for visitors. For exhibitors, follow up. Make sure that you have a really good system that allows you to follow up on the people that were interested or that you had a conversation with. That probably be the biggest one. Make your stand really attractive. Be really open to welcome people. And it always surprises me that people get a stand and then kind of just sit next to it and sit on their phone and don't look at the people that are walking past.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I went along to help a friend out at a different type of, it was a well-being exhibition. And I found it really interesting that I was the one who was talking to everybody going past as opposed to her. And I think that she's a very warm person, but I think that for her, it was uncomfortable to put herself out there. Whereas because I was doing it on her behalf, I was really relaxed about it. Whereas I think if it were me, I would have also been kind of wanting to, have I got a roller banner I can hide behind?
Yeah, I'd often say find one sort of really easy question that you can ask everyone that walks past that kind of starts the conversation a little bit. So it could be as simple as, hey, are you looking for anything specific today? Or what's the key reason why you're here? Or something along those. But just one sort of generally open question that would be a good conversation starter. And then once you get into asking that question regularly, it becomes a little bit easier. Not the can I help, because it becomes easy for people to say yes or no at that stage.
Well, especially if they're rushing off somewhere or they're trying to get to, whatever it is, particular stand they've got. It's very easy to brush off, isn't it?
Exactly. So try to keep them talking by at least asking them an interesting question.
That is excellent advice. Now, thank you very much.
That's all right.
Conversation with Nell Op de Beeck, an action coach. Nell will be at the Hampshire Business Expo on stage with Richard Woods, Jake Liddell, and herself, talking about the 5 ways and essentially having a micro lead gen summit. So if you're there, make sure you book time out in your diary to join them at 12:30 for the keynote speech. My next guest is Mandy Dineley of My Beautiful Pen. Mandy and I talk about how her business came into being and how she'd wanted to start it for quite a long time. She had the URL for ages before it actually became what it is today. And I know that even in the time since she and I spoke at the beginning of January, that things are continuing to grow and evolve. So please join me now in welcoming Mandy Dineley.
Deborah, I'm fine, thank you. Are you?
I am fine, thank you very much. Glad to be in a warm, lovely place with a friendly person, a friendly dog, and a fire.
It's very nice, yes. It doesn't feel like business at all.
It doesn't. It feels quite relaxed, and I might just go to sleep afterwards instead of doing all the work I need to do. So, Mandy, you are the founder of My Beautiful Pen, and I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about the company itself, please.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. Yes, so My Beautiful Pen is an idea that I had quite a few years ago, and as a vocalist and a writer, I just really had this passion to write, but I hadn't found the avenue. So I came up with My Beautiful Pen because I love pens and I love writing. So I had that URL for quite some time, and then the business ideas came slowly, not slowly, but they just came, I suppose, and then I just set it up, and it seemed to take so long in setting it up, but it all of a sudden it just kind of makes sense. So I write bespoke pieces for special occasions, so for birthday parties, christenings, weddings, big milestone occasions, and I will write a piece, but I'll work very closely with the client so that the piece that is delivered is very personal. So it could be a verse, it could be a poem, it could be just a piece of writing, it could be long, it could be short, it could be recorded, it could even be musical.
So it's really anything that the person wants that they can't necessarily create themselves, but you help them to express what they're feeling and the message that they want to get across.
That's exactly it. Yes, definitely. And what I found is that since I've been doing it, the people that can talk about anything, sometimes when they want to talk about something that's so close to them, they need someone else to help them bring it out, I suppose. And it's like teamwork in a way, but they feel that they can't do it without that other person. And it's a lovely process, I have to say.
It sounds really lovely, and I know some of the things you've done have really made, brought people to tears in a good way.
Yes, in a good way, for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know, Mandy, that you've been, a vocalist, you've worked in IT, and then you started your own company, so prior to My Beautiful Pen. But I just want to talk a little bit about what made you decide to start your own business initially.
Well, because of what I was doing before was like a franchise in a way. So even though it was mine, it wasn't mine. And I just wanted something to own, I suppose, because I used to work in IT years ago and working for some great companies. But I think I've always wanted to have something that I owned and if I could do something using some of the creativeness that I had, then wow, it just would feel right. I guess, and I wanted to do something for myself as well, because I've been a mum for, well, I'm still a mum, obviously, thank goodness, but I was a busy mum, and I was very privileged to be at home with the children. I do feel that was a privilege. I was very lucky, but there comes a time where you think, actually, I want to do something for myself.
That's lovely, thank you. And when you're thinking about your business and you're thinking about what are you aiming for? What's going to make you feel successful? What is your definition, your personal definition of success?
God, that's a really difficult question, because it changes all the time. And I think my idea of success now will be very different to my idea of success in a year and 2 years, 3 years. But I think for me, success now, because it's still in the early stages, would be having a healthy pipeline.
Yes.
And getting things in place. For me, success would be having things in place with some, I can't think of the words to say it, with some orders that behind me that feel, weighty, if you like.
So you know that you've got the pipeline of work coming in.
Yeah.
And that they're sizable enough that you're able to essentially plan and know what your finances are going to be like.
Yes.
Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be able to, in the early stages, for it to be profitable would be a good thing, but I know that we have to put so much into our businesses, we have to reinvest, and I know that. But, it would be nice to feel that a bit more.
Yes.
And so success for me right now would be very different.
And if you're saying, actually, when I get to a point where, actually maybe it's slightly different, maybe it's where do you want to get to? So not just a year ahead, but what do you think, if my beautiful pen was this, what would this be that is kind of your ultimate in, whether it's a year, whether it's 5 years, whether it's 10 years, whether it's next month, but just that ultimate, what would make you feel, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve with this?
I'd have a lovely shiny website with all the products listed beautifully on there, which some are, but it needs a bit of work. I'd have I suppose I'd have a nice smooth running situation that's just
right.
But with me,
what would
still
it mean for you as in your life? What part would it play?
That I was known for my beautiful pen, and that I had products, people would recognise my beautiful pen. I suppose that people would go, oh yes, like other companies out there. I'm not looking to be nationwide or worldwide, or just have a bit of a hold in a.
So you'd be known in an area that was actually, if you want that sort of thing, that's Mandy, that's my beautiful pen.
Yeah.
Or actually, I just heard this, and do you know what? That sounds like it was something from Mandy.
Yes.
Yeah. Microbiz Matters Day is obviously about micro businesses, and what I'm just interested in is whether or not people tend to think of themselves as a micro business. So when you're going out and you're meeting a new client, when you're introducing yourself to prospective clients, whether you're saying to them, so somebody said to me the other day that they tend to say that they're independent, they're an independent trainer of such and such, and other people have said that they see themselves as self-employed or a freelancer, or they see themselves as a business owner. So people have lots of different words that they associate with themselves. So while they all might technically be true, it's which one do you associate with? Which one resonates with you? If you were saying to me, Deborah, I am...
Yes, I would say self-employed, although I do have a business, but I feel until I start making more traction, I don't feel that I can qualify as a more rounded business. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. So, I know what you mean, that you feel that you're not, it needs to be more complete, or I know what you mean. I do understand what you mean.
I don't feel as if the circle is complete yet, which excites me because I get excited by setting it all up, and that has been one of the most exciting parts. But I don't feel I can call myself a fully fledged business as such, although, yeah.
So you're self-employed is what you would currently resonate with.
Yes, but is that right or wrong? I don't know.
Well, technically it's absolutely correct. And that's where it's just interesting, because I think with all micro-businesses, and because a micro-business is from 0 to 9 people and with a turnover of up to £2 million, it's actually a huge range. And so it's just interesting seeing what people tend to call themselves and how they think of themselves. And if you're going out to a client, would you be saying to them, are you clear that it is you that they're dealing with, or do you like to give them the feeling that actually this is my beautiful pen and we have writers everywhere?
Do you know, it's funny, I thought about that because when I first started, not when I first started talking about it, when I first started talking about it, it was me. Then in the middle somehow I thought, should it be just me? Should I be saying us? At Beautiful Pen, we. And then I thought, no, I'll be totally honest. It is me. It is just me. I'd like to think in the future that we could have other writers on board, but it is just me. And so I do now. I've come back round again to saying it is me.
And I've just thought, I think that what you need in the future is a matchmaking service. So basically your potential clients come in and they fill in their form, and then they get matched with the writer who is the best fit for them. So you'd be able to go, okay, actually I'm not the best person for you. This person is going to.
Oh, you don't mean matchmaking as in singles and...
No, matchmaking as in... But it's matchmaking as a client and a writer. Yeah.
I was thinking, goodness me, there's another business idea I haven't thought, my beautiful partner.
Don't quite how that... that could work. Hang on, we're copywriting that.
Yeah.
So
that's a good idea.
And when you're working with other businesses, do you, when you choose who's going to be a supplier for you, that sort of thing, are you just looking for the company that appears to deliver what you need, or do you make any conscious efforts to go, actually I would prefer to work with another micro business? Is there anything in your thought process?
Yeah, actually, it's a really good question. I do feel that I want to support other small businesses, solo businesses, or businesses because I feel that feels right for me at this moment in time. And actually, but I do a little bit of research on them.
Right.
I have fallen foul a couple of times and picked the wrong people, I have to say. But of late, it's been brilliant. The right people have been a real help to me on a professional basis, and I'm really pleased with those that I've chosen to help me with my beautiful pen. For example, the logo. But I'm very much a loyal person, so the lady who did the company that did my logo, I remember meeting this particular person a few years ago, and I said to her, I want you to do my logo when it comes to me. And I did, and I stuck to my word because just of the way that she was. Things like that to me are really important.
And it's nice sometimes. You actually, I think there are some people, especially with logos and that sort of thing, like my beautiful pen as well, where you need to feel that connection. You need the other person to get you, to be able to come up with something that is actually going to do what you want it to do. So it's a powerful, it's an additional value having that connection rather than just a list of things I want and no personality involved in it. Last but not least, one of the other things about Microbiz Matters is supporting other micro businesses, and I wondered if there was anything that you thought of that you could do for giving 11 of something. It doesn't have to be on the day itself. It can be over a period of time. It can be anything. It could even be that you make a list of 11 people that you haven't been in touch with for a while and that you want to reestablish.
I think that would be really useful to name 11 other micro businesses. Then that's what I'll do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
That's it. It's lovely to speak to you.
It's lovely to speak to you as well, Mandy. I was was in conversation with Mandy Dineley of My Beautiful Pen. Coming up now, I'm in conversation with Jake Liddell of WP Aid. Jake and I will be talking about automation and processes and how those can make a huge difference to any business, no matter what size that business may be. Jake also shares some fantastic advice for both exhibitors and visitors attending not just the Hampshire Business Expo, but any exhibition that they might be attending in the future. Please join me now in welcoming my final guest for this episode, Jake Liddell. Jake, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for having me on there.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure. Jake, you are going to be teaming up with Richard Woods and Nell Op de Beeck to give the keynote speech at a micro lead gen summit for the Hampshire Business Expo. And I was wondering if you could just share a little bit about what it is. I know you're going to be talking about automation, but why is it that that's relevant for people? Because I'm not sure if somebody says automation, whether what you're talking about immediately leaps to mind.
It's an interesting topic because it's something that doesn't get talked about very often. I've been running various forms of my own small businesses since 2006. And typically I've been working with small businesses. So I have a lot of experience of all sorts of different types of small business. And I tell you, the one thing that is common amongst us all as small business owners is we do seem to spend a lot of time doing stuff that is not what we love doing. So I'll give you a real world example. I had a big stack of paperwork and receipts that I hadn't gotten around to processing yesterday. So last night I was busily sort of feeding them into my scanner and trying to get them into my accounting system. Now, is that what I started a small business to do? It's not. But nevertheless, it's something that every small business owner has probably had to do at some stage or other. And I think you listen to the business gurus, and they all say things like, "Well, you should find an outsourcer, and you should employ somebody else to do that for you because your hourly rate is less than theirs," and things like that. And that's all said and done. That's all fairly well, but actually sometimes the cost of those can be quite prohibitive when you're just getting going, or if you're trying to spend money on something else. And there's a lot of things these days that computers can do a lot better than humans. And where 5 years ago it would have cost maybe £5 million to put in a system to do these kind of cool things, now it costs a couple of dollars a month. I got fed up of doing those receipts last night. And so instead, I decided to do some automation. And so I joined my scanner to my Google Drive. And then I went into a tool called Zapier, and I joined my Google Drive to Zapier. And then Zapier's got a tool that will send an email automatically. And so I sent an email to Xero, my accounting software. And now, if I feed my receipt into my scanner, it immediately appears in Xero. And I don't know why I didn't do that years ago. Because that's the thing about automation, is that once you put the automation in place, it works for you every single day of the week. It's something on autopilot. So I think that Richard's going to be talking about, bringing in leads and all of that kind of side of things. Lead generation within a business is obviously very important, but there's a lot of automation that you can pile into that particular space. There's no need for you to send an email to somebody thanking them for coming along to your event. You can get a computer to do that, and it does exactly the same job as you would have to. Or you can check which people are engaging with the stuff that you're sending out, and you can tailor your messaging automatically so that if somebody is showing an interest in a particular service, you can send them some more information. And that's the kind of thing that a salesperson would traditionally do, but a computer is much more reliable than a salesperson at doing all of those admin tasks.
And as you say, once it's up and running, it does make life so much simpler. I know some of the tips that you've shared at the Lead Gen Academy have, I've put them in place, not just for myself, but for some of my clients. And they've just made life so much simpler. And I'm going through at the moment, putting some more automation in place to help with another process, and it changed. When I started doing my podcast, I was overwhelmed by the amount of work that I needed to do to line guests up, to communicate with them, to get information, and putting an automation in to deal with all of that just made it all completely streamlined and so much easier. So I'm completely with you on the benefit of this.
And that's the thing, you think about podcasts, we as interviewees, we love to think of ourselves as individuals, but I bet the process is almost identical for every single one of us.
The process is identical.
There we go. Yeah. Maybe we're not as individual as we like to think.
Yeah, it's the information that you send back and the details that I send to you that differ, but what I need and what you need is the same. So as you say, that there's individuality in there, but it's a process that I don't have to modify every time, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, it doesn't actually have to mean that you're doing away with the human interaction. So we have somebody who follows up after an event to make sure that the event went well. We get some feedback from that person. And we also offer them a chance to come and meet and have a further network. Richard's a great advocate of networking. And so we build that into our process. And so a person will ring up each person and ask them whether they'd like to have a one-to-one. But some people don't need to be asked. Some people are dying to have a one-to-one. And so if we put a piece of automation in front of that task, which is to ask them via email if they'd like to have a one-to-one and give them an opportunity to book straight into a calendar, then instead of having to make 20 telephone calls, you can make 10. And it's that simple. So, the cost of people, the cost of time is one of the largest costs in any business. And it's not just the cost, it's the opportunity cost if it's you that's doing the time. And so as a small business owner, if you can find tasks that you can get out of your diary, or if you can get a task and cut the volume of that task in half by doing some clever automation at the front of it, then you've got that time back to spend on growing your business,
which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, to me, there's no area of business that shouldn't be scrutinized for the potential to put a bit of automation in. And my sort of rule of thumb is, are you doing this task more than the first time? So is this the second time you're doing it? Is this the third time? Are you going to have to do it again? If the answer is yes, then it's a candidate for automation.
Well, especially because I know when I was doing some work on processes and things, and some of the things that I would come up as against, people would say, oh, well, you want to do this for the things that you do frequently. And I think absolutely you do, but you also want to do it for the things that you do infrequently, because if you only do it once a month or once a quarter, you have to go through the learning curve all over again because you've forgotten all the pain you went through the first time. So by automating it, it just makes life so much more straightforward, however frequently you do it.
Absolutely. And again, often it's because it's done infrequently, you make an assumption that it's quicker to do it yourself than it is to work out how to do it and then get somebody else to do it. And to me, automation is also defining process and just getting other humans to do the work. If you take the time to work out what needs to be done and create maybe a small little video, then you can give it to somebody, and that they may take 3 times as long as you do to do it. As in, you may be the best person at it, they will take longer. But if your hourly rate is £50 an hour and their hourly rate is £5 an hour, it doesn't matter that they're taking 3 times as long, as long as the quality is there, as long as you can check it. And all of those checks and balances, they can all be automated as well.
I think that was some really useful information from Jake and really helps to clarify the role of process and automation in any business, especially as you're trying to grow and expand your existing business. Just before we wrapped up, I asked Jake for advice on what visitors and exhibitors can do to make the most of their visit to the Hampshire Business Expo.
My number one tip for any event, and it doesn't really matter whether you're an exhibitor or an attendee, is know why you're going along. It never ceases to amaze me when I'm walking around a big event, especially some of these really large ones where people I know have paid thousands of pounds to come along, and it'll be the middle of the day and there'll be nobody on a stand. There's nobody there. And so all of these opportunities are walking past and there's nobody there. Or it'll be towards the end of the day and you're tired, and so you sit down and somebody is close, and yet you don't have the energy to engage with that person, and so you allow that person to walk away. And so to me, for exhibitors, number one, you're not there to sell, you're there to build relationships and to get contacts. I have a friend who does events very, very well. He once went to the business the business event at the Excel, which is a huge event and has something like 30,000 people coming through the doors. Now, he managed to capture 5,000 contacts from that event. So that rather shows, if you come away with 50 business cards, often the business owner is happy. He came away with 5,000 contacts. And how did he do that? Well, he made it his goal to get as many contacts as possible. That was his goal. So he had a team of people with the right scanners and the right messages to engage, and he just went out and got lots and lots of contacts. So for exhibitors, know why you're going and look at your stand and look at your offering and look at the way that you're presenting from a stranger's perspective. So they are going to make a snap decision in about 10 seconds as to whether to engage with you. And so if you can't work out what you do from your stand in 10 seconds, then you need to do something about the way you present. And if I could ask one thing of somebody who's attending the event, please don't try and sell to the exhibitors. Yeah, they are there. They've paid for their stands, and they are there to promote their businesses. They'd love to engage with you, but there's nothing more annoying than somebody just wanting to sell straight at you. If you're going to go and meet people, go and meet people. Go to every single one of the stands and book a one-to-one with each one of them. Do networking, but don't sell.
And that is excellent advice. And both of those are really important. And I know that one of the things I've been thinking about in relation to my stand is how I'm covering, making sure that there's somebody there all the time. So I've got a number of colleagues who are coming along to make sure that hopefully we never get to a point where it's empty. And as you say, inviting people in. So because it's my first exhibition, it's always interesting to get tips and advice from people like yourself who've done them before, and to think about how you do actually get the most out of it without overcomplicating it, I suppose.
It's back to that question. If Carlsberg did exhibitions, what would it be like? And I tell you what, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be mint imperials in a bowl.
Yes.
How many stands have mint imperials in a bowl? They're not the ones that get the excitement. Whereas if you've got a barrel of beer, or if you've got an espresso machine, or if you've got cupcakes, if you've gone a little tiny bit further than just buying a packet of Polos and emptying them into a little glass bowl, that will get you your conversations. And if your goal in attending is to have conversations, then thinking through what's going to be on your stand, having something that stands out, something that grabs the attention. I saw an amazing stand once where they had a magician, and it wasn't about magic. It was about having a magician, and the magician would get you to get your business card out, and the magician would magic your business card away and replace it with their business card. And it would be done right in front of the person's nose. And it was a wonderful way of engaging with an audience and capturing details at the same time.
That is great. Thank you very much, Jake. The Business Podcast was produced by Deborah Levitt of Bridge Road Consultants Limited, with original music provided by Pete Dineley.
You've been listening to Deborah Levitt on Bridging Gaps, the business podcast.